if it isn't Saucy Jack. Just a little too late, as usual.
Armstrong. Impressive little toy you've got there. But your plan ends here.
Idiot! You're not ending our plan. You're expanding it. Check the internet lately.
I got a bad feeling about this. I got a bad feeling about this.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
So, I published a video very recently criticizing the new 1.4.5 changes to Terraria and talking about how I think we could do without a lot of the features that came after 1.3. And while most of you will know that the reception to that video was not very positive.
You've been found guilty of outlawry, theft, murder, abduction, false pretenses, contempt of the crown, poaching in the royal forests, and high treason. Hanged by the neck until you are dead.
I mean, there were a couple people who agreed, some who just respectfully disagreed and offered counter-arguments of their own, but for the most part it was just blatant hostility. And to be honest, I probably should have expected this, but I was not ready for that kind of response. And I'll admit that, in the moment, it really got to me, to the point that I was almost ready to ditch Terraria modding for good.
Yes, it would move me to tears if I still had tears to shed.
And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with disagreeing with me. You have a right to disagree, and I couldn't take that away if I wanted to. But I don't think the community's response was reasonable. I mean, disagreeing is one thing, but actively raging at opinions you don't agree with just doesn't seem like a healthy response to me. But I digress. Point is, I was frustrated, they were frustrated, I needed a break, I thought about quitting, and obviously I'm not quitting, otherwise I wouldn't be making this video, just isn't like me to quit. I've had plenty of time to think over the situation now, and now I'd like to simply give some of my thoughts going forward. Just so you know, this is not an apology video. If that's what you were expecting, then I'm sorry. I already apologized. Good start. Moving on. First, I have a confession to make. I'm not perfect.
What?
Yeah, I know. Shocker, right? I've made mistakes in the past, I've made mistakes in the present, and I will continue to make mistakes in the future. I am flawed.
All people are by nature.
The purpose of my videos and critiques in general about Relogic and other mods or whatever was never to say that everyone else is stupid and I'm always right. I'm not always right. The purpose was just to present opinions of my own for people to consider and decide for themselves whether or not they think they agree. I didn't bring these things up in the actual videos because, well, I thought it was obvious. I mean, I am just a random guy on the internet who makes silly Terraria videos. Logically, something I said shouldn't have to affect how you think and feel, but I think a big issue is that the internet just can't take a joke.
What did you say? Now I'm really mad!
Because a lot of the stuff I say is very hyperbolic by design. I tend to prefer videos in that style because they are more entertaining to watch. My favorite game review videos are always the ones that make me laugh. Me agreeing with them is just icing on the cake. I mean, my Empress of Light hate video, for example, that one was played almost entirely for laughs. There were some genuine criticisms, but it was mostly just supposed to be funny. In my more recent video critiquing Realogic's game design lately, I was mostly earnest, but there were still a couple of skits and gags, like that bit at the start with a close-up on the Goblin Tinkerer's face, or that bit where I said we should cyberbully Realogic into reverting the changes. But apparently I'm the only one who got the joke, because everyone else seems to have taken everything I've said 100% seriously. But okay, joking aside, I don't really think it's how I present my opinions that's the problem. I mean, rants like mine aren't too uncommon, they're just on different subjects. If my rant had been about how bad the Bed of Chaos in Dark Souls is, well, for one, people probably would have rightly accused me of beating a dead horse for content, but I do not think the reaction would have been nearly as hostile. And well, yeah, I guess that's fair. That makes a lot more sense than being hostile towards an opinion that is in line with the popular consensus. But come on, you can't just dismiss everything I say as rage bait and then turn and accuse me of being afraid of criticism.
On the contrary, Doctor, we can.
Okay, enough of the skits. Serious video, no more skits. And well, to be honest, I should have been ready for this. I mean, this is the internet. If you're going to publicly say something that's a very unpopular opinion, yeah, a lot of people are going to get angry, just the way it is. I could even say I was practically asking for it, since the only reason I made the video was because I saw another video with similar sentiments and didn't like how it was getting a lot of hate for expressing what I thought were some genuinely good concerns with the new changes. Now, I didn't make this channel just so I could publish footage of my Terraria bosses. I want to be able to make videos expressing my opinions on certain subjects, even if my opinions tend to veer towards the unpopular. And I don't expect I'm going to stop doing that, but what I am going to try and stop doing is caring so much about what the public thinks of me, because ultimately, by trying to engage with people who are clearly just annoyed with me, I'm really only digging the hole deeper. And if I simply focus on doing what I enjoy doing, then there will always be an audience for that. I do somewhat yearn for the earlier days of my channel when I cared a lot more about what I was actually doing than what people thought of it. And the whole explosion of popularity with the Eater Worlds video probably didn't do me any favors in the long run with how it affected my ego and my general way of perceiving things. Which is all to say, I really need to rein in my expectations. My mod is gaining traction, people like it, my videos get a lot of attention. I really have no right to complain. I can't just expect everyone or even most people to agree with me about my unorthodox opinions about game design. I mean, these are topics that I would actually like to discuss with people, so it's a little frustrating when they dismiss everything I say as rage bait, but what can you do? And with that out of the way, now seems like a good time to address some gripes that people typically have with me. The most common being that I'm not receptive to criticism.
Well, that's a pity. Because I am.
And that's honestly pretty valid, because a lot of my earlier bosses in my Terraria mod, like, I'd say up until I'd made the Lunatic Cultist rework, all prior bosses were decent, but with some major issues at best, and a lot of them were just bad. And I do have plans to go back and rework these bosses to make them up to the same standard as my more recent creations. In fact, on a whim, I already gave this treatment to the Desert Phantom, which will be present in the next update, so stay tuned for that. And, you know, it's fair that a lot of my earlier bosses weren't that good, because before I started Terraria modding, I didn't know how to Terraria mod, and the only way to stop being bad at something and get good at it is to do it. With each boss I made, I got a little bit better and learned something new, all the way up until now. But that does not excuse the fact that at the time that I made those bosses, I was convinced that they were absolutely perfect, and any issue people had with them was purely a matter of opinion and nothing more. And I remember dismissing a lot of valid criticisms towards my work because I just couldn't see the flaws in my own design. It is hard. When you make something and put all your effort into it and make it exactly the way you wanted to make it, it's tough to step back and realize that there's something wrong with it. But nonetheless, that was not a good way to handle criticism, and I feel like I alienated a lot of genuinely good-intentioned people as a result, and for that, I apologize. That one's on me. And I hope I can be a little more self-aware now. Like, for example, my most recent bosses, the Celestials and the Moonlord reworks so far, they're not perfect. I'm proud of them, and they're a lot better than the earlier stuff I've made. I mean, Measureless Matter is literally just the exact same concept as my Eater of Worlds rework, just done a million times better. But they have flaws, and those flaws will come more apparent to me as I keep making bosses and getting better, because at the end of the day, I'm still learning and I haven't nearly reached the peak. And on another topic, a semi-common counter-argument to my criticisms towards the new Terraria changes has been that my Terraria mod doesn't feel like Terraria, so it's not valid for me to say that these new changes don't feel like Terraria.
Excuse me.
And let me just make it absolutely clear that my mod was never supposed to feel like vanilla Terraria. I mean, the entire point of my last video was saying that Terraria is just fine the way it is. So my mod, Forgotten Evils, was never supposed to be a fix or an overhaul for vanilla Terraria. Its main feature, Cursed Mode, I mean, it's literally called Cursed Mode. It simply exists as a medium for me to make wacky, sometimes over-the-top boss fights, and sometimes some other features, but it's just supposed to be entertaining. To be fair, I did make a video that said I fixed Terraria's endgame, showcasing all my Celestial Pillar reworks, and those, ironically enough, are the most grounded and polished bosses I've made, compared to my usual Cursed Mode reworks with lots of copyrighted music. But it is still rather out of Terraria's scope. But to be fair, I did say in an earlier video, now, I'm no professional game designer, though I'd like to be, and I understand that it may take more than what I can offer to truly fix Terraria's endgame, but I do hope that my new system will at least be an improvement in people's eyes. But nonetheless, a lot of people asked for this feature, and the main complaint with Terraria's endgame, or more specifically the pillar events, is that the pillars are boring and tedious, and replacing the pillars with these boss fights can be classified as a fix. So I don't think it's a dishonest statement to say that I, quote-unquote, fixed Terraria's endgame. But anyway, point is, Forgotten Evils is not vanilla Terraria, and it was never meant to be. Most of its features, if added to vanilla Terraria, would not be good things to add to the game, and I would argue against them. Though, to be honest, if Relogic did implement some form of replacing the pillars with bosses, I think I'd be on board with that. But definitely not the Plantera rework or the Radiance. But I suppose that's enough rambling. So, what happens now? Well, obviously I'm gonna keep working on my mod, but as for the update containing the Moonlord and the Pillar reworks and the Lunatic Cultist rework, I think I've kept you guys waiting on that long enough. Right now, I just don't feel like working on that final form I teased for the Moonlord. I think it's complete enough as it is, so I think I'm just going to release the update without that and just add it in later. In addition to finishing Cursed Mode and reworking the pillars, the update will also include an overhaul of the reward system. Instead of getting 2 treasure bags for each boss and a vanilla item that you aren't supposed to have yet, instead each boss will drop a unique consumable that can be consumed once to grant you a small permanent buff for the rest of the game. I think that's a pretty decent reward and incentive to seek out all the bosses. And in addition to that, there will of course also be the Desert Phantom rework with more to follow. I'm not exactly sure how soon I'm going to post the update after releasing this video. Might be tomorrow, might be in a week, might be somewhere in between, but it'll be very soon. And I have also made a lot of changes since the last update, more minor ones just to fix small aspects of the mod that are either unintentionally buggy or fundamentally broken or unfun. An example of this would be where several bosses and enemies would calculate the center of your screen and use that position for something, but the calculation only works if your screen is the same size as mine. I should have that fixed now, so it will always return the exact center of your screen regardless of the size of your monitor. Well, I suppose I've talked long enough, but before I go, I would like to thank all of you who contributed to my mod, gave feedback and expressed interest, or even just watched my videos over these years. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have no idea how much this means to me. Take care, and I will see you soon.
But the waves are calling out my name and they laugh at me, reminding me of all the times I've tried before and failed. The waves, they keep on telling me time and time again, boy, you never win. You never win. But the voice of truth